Hey, what's up, everybody? Ryan, I got my main man Brad back here. We are going to talk over the Brewers and Cubs. And albeit though, Brad's repping his Brewer gear right now. We've been friends for a long time, and he's
You
not a
mean
Brewer
Cub
hater.
stuff?
His Cubs stuff. He's not a Brewer hater. He just happens to have been a Cubs fan his whole life. So we can forgive him and we can move past this.
Well, some will forgive, some won't. It's okay.
Before we jump into the Brewers, though, did you happen to get to watch the Bucks Sixers game last night?
I did. I watched from I think the third quarter on because I was watching most of the Cubs game until they decided to walk and let everyone score runs in the fourth or fifth inning, and then I got frustrated. So I'm like, I'm going to watch the Bucks. At least I'll watch a team that can win.
Man, that is fun. I'm loving watching Giannis play Embiid. I mean, these guys go after each other. They're both so dominant. They're such physical presences. It was just fun. And if that's a preview of the playoffs and what we got coming up, I cannot get more fired up for the Eastern Conference playoffs.
Yeah, it was an exciting game to watch that second half. Them being back, they were never down huge, but for them to come back in that last couple minutes and then grab the lead. I mean, Sterling Brown played really well those last couple minutes. It was good to see other guys step up.
You know what? I said it before. No Brogdon, no problem. No Nico, no problem. Bledsoe ejected a few minutes in, and that was hilarious when he chucked that ball at Embiid. That was really funny. No problem right there. 76ers on fire from three-point range. Redick and Mike Scott shot like 9 of 13 or something like that, and they still won the game. Oh, man, I'm so excited. Let's bring on the playoffs. But before we get into that with too much detail, we want to kind of preview that you got a Brewers-Cubs series this weekend. And,
yes, sir.
I mean, this means a lot already early in the year. And what I mean by that, we kind of previewed these two teams as being some of the beasts of the Central. If Milwaukee were to somehow go out and sweep this game and grab like an early 8-game lead, I know it's early, but that is tough to come back from an 8-point game lead at any point.
Yeah, I mean, I never thought after we talked last week that I'd be sitting here this week seeing 1-5 as the Cubs record. And I've watched every game, and it has been painful to watch that bullpen just give it up left and right. And you can only hope at some point they're going to turn this around. And I'm not panicking yet, but if Milwaukee sweeps them, panic may start setting in real early.
Well, and again, we don't want to overreact based on what is less than 5% of the actual regular season, but Milwaukee is just kind of picking up where they left off last year. And this team, and what you have to love about the Brewers is they have all the intangibles working for them. They really seem to love playing with one another. They seem to support each other. If it's not Yelich one day, the next day it's Kane. The day after that it's Braun. Then it's Aguilar, Shaw, Moustakas, Yasmani Grandal, Orlando Arcia with a big-time opposite field home run the other day. So everybody contributes, even though I know we know Yelich kind of drives the team and Hader comes in and closes it down. All of the intangibles the Cubs had a couple of years ago when they won the World Series, I'm not seeing any of it. And that, to me, would be the bigger concern because that offense is still legit, but can they get that back, that love of playing with one another?
Yeah, that seems to be the weirdest thing of this all is that it seems like the hitting is not a problem right now. They are definitely hitting the ball, except for last night and then Monday night when they got shut out. They got it going late last night. They got 4 runs. I mean, like I said, it was too late. But the offense has been there. It's just been the pitching, like even the starting pitching. Lester has been solid because that's what Lester is. Darvish pitched decent last night until he got into a bit of trouble, and that's when the runs started coming in, when they brought the bullpen in. Hendricks had issues the other day. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm happy Quintana gets the first start of the year tonight against the Brewers just because he has I don't want to say own the Brewers, but he has had much success against the Brewers in the past.
He has, although I feel like his last or second to last start last year, Braun took him deep a couple of times and they finally got to him, but he's had some really shutout starts against Milwaukee. I just got done doing a DraftKings DFS video with Matt, and we're looking at Lorenzo Cain a lot because he's real cheap today, and we know he's very good against lefties. But my other thought process was that I like Woodruff a lot tonight too, but from an overall perspective, the Cubs and Brewers played a lot of really low-scoring games last year.
Low scoring and very, very close. I mean, like a lot of those games were 1-0, 2-1, 3-4. There was a lot of games that went extra innings, especially at Miller Park there, where I remember like 2 or 3 off the top of my head last year that were like 1-1 going into like the 11th inning. Like they played some marathons last year.
And that's where Milwaukee has the advantage in this one, because if it gets into that Cubs bullpen, until you see it, you have to really not trust them, I guess is the best way to look at it.
I agree. I mean, Carl Edwards walking everybody. Shizik is walking everybody. Chatwood giving up home runs. I mean, it's just I can't remember what stat was last night, but the bullpen has walked so many guys. I mean, yeah, you're bringing it up. Look at Montgomery. I mean, his ERA 20. Edwards is 45. I mean, it's just craziness.
Flip over. Okay, apparently it won't do what it's supposed to. But yeah, Carl Edwards, who has been a good reliever, has been awful to start the year. Not a lot of sample size. Same goes for Montgomery, Strop, Cishek, Chatwood. Very, very interesting. Again, it's super early in the season. And if you are a Cubs fan, sucks. But no, I'm just kidding. If you're a Cubs fan, I wouldn't over exaggerate this. I mean, these guys have I know their ERAs are terrible and the batting average allowed is huge and they've given up a lot of walks, but they've also only pitched a combined, like 6 innings. Like, it's super early in the season. So heading into tonight's game, what we have at our disposal is it's going to be in Milwaukee, for those of you who didn't know that already. So that is an advantage for the Brewers. It's always a little bit of an advantage for the home team. Not that it's the end all, but we got Quintana going up against Brandon Woodruff. Now, name value, if you just ask your average MLB viewer, they're going to kind of rave on Quintana probably more than Woodruff. But I think sure a lot of you Brewers fans know it. I love Brandon Woodruff. I love the moxie that he brings to the game. I think the best representation is what he did against Clayton Kershaw last year. Pitched well, but that also took him deep. This guy gets up for big spots. I expect a really good start from Brandon Woodruff tonight, and I expect another lower scoring game. I think we head into the latter innings. It's going to be something like 2-1.
I don't disagree with that at all. I saw it was Woodruff tonight. I was kind of worried about that myself. He, like you said, in those big spots, he comes up, especially in the playoffs last year in the NLCS. And he's got a good arm, and the Cubs are going to have a hard time getting anything off of him. And the guys, they're hitting, but at times they're struggling. I mean, Baez was 0 for last night till he hit his home run in the 9th inning. Bryant was 0 for all night. Rizzo was, I think, he got hit by a pitch, and that was his only thing he did until he hit his home run in the 9th. So, I mean, it took him 9 innings to get 4 runs last night, and it's not like they were facing like super quality. I'm not saying Max Fried is bad or anything, but I mean, he's a young guy that is like any young pitcher who could give it up at any time. So at times they have struggled. I mean, and against Texas, they were on fire, but I mean, they were playing in Texas, and I mean, Texas doesn't have a lot for pitching. So.
No, they do not. Everybody should hit off at Texas, and you would hope that they would score some runs. So again, Fried's a very talented young guy. He's got good stuff. Like most young pitchers, when it's on, he looks good. And then a lot of times there's an inning where he would falter. And I was actually debating Matt on this on our other show, where he said, well, I like the Cubs tonight because they got it going late. I go, I don't really see how that's applicable necessarily for today, because they went up against Atlanta's like bottom tier reliever and got a couple of runs in a game that didn't matter, or they were just trying to get through it. That doesn't mean a whole bunch for me heading in today. I expect a lower scoring game. Quintana was good in his first start this year.
Yeah, I agree. Lower scoring. Quintana, he didn't start. He came out of the bullpen in that game. But
gotcha. That was the game. Who screwed it up? Darvish, right?
Darvish started. Yeah, Darvish started, and then Quintana came in. And he pitched great. I think he only pitched 4 innings, but he got him through the middle part without giving up any runs. So I look forward to him tonight. I think he'll maybe settle things down a little bit and try to get deeper so we don't have to go to the bullpen so early.
Well, that would be ideal, given that the bullpen is pulling up. And again, I didn't dislike the Cubs bullpen heading into this year, and I think they'll get it figured out. But if we go look at the prior experience versus these guys, so Woodruff doesn't have a lot of experience against the Cubs. They have a total of 38 plate appearances, 31 at-bats, 8 strikeouts. He gave up a home run to Daniel Descalzo. That was probably actually with the Diamondbacks. So very little experience. Not much you can really read off right here. But going up against Quintana, one thing, he's definitely striking out a lot of these guys. Again, Braun had 2 home runs in back-to-back plate appearances, but other than that, combines for about a 4 for 29, which is not very good. Moustakas and Kane have a lot of experience against JQ, but that comes from their time in the AL Central together. And Moustakas has been solid against them, 808 OPS. And, Kane's done Kane things. He's batted 280. He's got 8 doubles in there. That's pretty much just who Lorenzo Kane is, not good or bad.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, Yelich, I mean, you can't a 4.14. You can't go too much off of that. I mean, that's still pretty decent, 286. But Hernan Perez, I wouldn't be shocked if he's in the lineup tonight because he's had some success against Quintana. But yeah, I mean, it's overall the team 235. So
yeah,
he's held
I
them
wouldn't be
down for the
surprised
most
to
part.
see. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they moved Moose over to third base tonight, let him play his more traditional position, and moved Hernan Perez into second base, knowing that Orlando are. Yeah, Shaw's 1 of 16 against them and has struggled against lefties. And I know they want him to get better, so they're going to give him those at bats, but that wouldn't surprise me at all. We'll kind of wait to be seen, but I think that would be a logical move and a good managing move on the side of Council, because then later in the game when they bring in those righty relievers, you got Shaw coming off the bench. We expect a low-scoring game. Be a big opportunity for a big lefty bat like that to come in and take advantage, because Shaw has struggled mightily against JQ. 1 of 16 with 5 strikeouts and no extra base hits.
Yeah, I think that'd be the way for Council to go for sure.
And Council is not afraid to mix it up and make moves like that. So don't be again, I think that's a good call, Brad. I like that idea to see Hernan Perez playing second base tonight. And Hernan Perez, man, what a super utility guy. He plays good defense at every position. It's luxury for any team who gets a guy like that.
Yeah, he impresses me. Every time I see him out there, he may not always do great at the plate, but his defense is enough to keep him in there.
Definitely. All right. So tomorrow we got another night game. Cole Hamels going up against Corbin Burns. And again, I do think that a lot of times, because, you and I are really into sports, and I know we have other guys who would maybe listen to this that don't follow quite as closely, and it's name value versus production. And that's why guys like Dallas Keuchel and Craig Kimbrell are still sitting out there as free agents right now. I've heard Dallas Keuchel linked to the Brewers a million times already this offseason. People want us to go out and get him. But at the end of the year, I would rather have Corbin Burns throwing for me than I would Dallas Keuchel. I know Keuchel's got the resume, but I don't want to pay a guy like that. I mean, he's fine, but he's nothing special. Cole Hamels and Corbin Burns are about equally as talented right now, but one guy's just been around forever and has name value. A lot of these up-and-comers. Burns can pitch. If you watched him last game, he struck out every Cardinal, gave up a home run to DeYoung that, again, DeYoung hit a good pitch. Sometimes good hitters hit good pitches. He laid a cookie across the middle of the plate to Goldschmidt. That one's on Burns. You can't throw a fastball right down the middle of the plate to Paul Goldschmidt in Miller Park.
No, you can't do that with a lot of hitters. So, no, that's Saturday is another good matchup. Hamels, they haven't had I looked previous to the Brewers don't have a lot of experience off of Hamels. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes for them. But the Cubs also haven't really faced Burns that much because Burns has really kind of come across later in the year last year. So I expect another low-scoring game on Saturday night. Another, 2-2, maybe 3-2, going late innings.
Yeah. Ryan Braun's got a bunch of experience against Hamels, but that's both because they're about 40 years old. Other than that, it's Yelich because they had all the time in the NL East together. But other than that, none of the Brewers have much experience against them. And actually, the Cubs have 11 total at-bats against Corbin Burns. It's actually more than I would have expected, knowing that Burns has only been up for a couple times around. Burns is going to be really good. And for those of you Brewer fans listening to this that don't know as much about the younger players, this guy has got all the upside in the world. I love the moxie that he brings to the game, too. I like him and Brandon Woodruff a lot. And we got a couple of up-and-comers. And for more of the novice baseball fan who wanted us to go out and sign veteran pitchers, I don't think you need to do it in modern baseball. We need to save some of this money for guys like Yelich, who in a couple of years, I can't have all my money going to Craig Kimbrell and Dallas Keuchel.
Yeah, I agree. And Keuchel, even the Astros went out and got guys after his one good year because he wasn't enough. And then when they brought those other guys in, he fell in their rotation. He wasn't their ace anymore. So, what is he still? I know he's got the resume, but he hasn't pitched that great the last year or two.
No, he hasn't. He hasn't at all. He won the Cy Young, and that was great. But the thing with location pitchers is a lot of times they're due for regression. Not everybody can be Greg Maddux. Greg Maddux is one of the GOATs of all time. Nobody was a location pitcher like him. But guys like Keuchel who move the ball around, though, and rely on you swinging at balls outside of the zone, most hitters eventually make adjustments against guys like that. Greg Maddux is like the unicorn. Nobody really did it like him. He was one of the greatest, probably the most precise pitcher of all time because he did it without great stuff. Keuchel hasn't been much since the Cy Young. He's been all right, but people eventually stopped swinging at balls outside of the zone. So I'll take a lot of these guys over him, and I'm glad that they didn't give him a lot of money because we can use that in better places. So,
and who knows if he sits out there any longer, he may be able to come in and be cheap.
right?
Maybe they get him on a cheap deal instead of paying a boatload for him. They just bring him in for a 1-year deal and see how he does.
Exactly. Now, if you want to sign Kimbrel or Keuchel, I'll give Kimbrel $20 million for 1 year, but I don't want to sign him for 5 years, $100 million like he's asking for. If he wants to come in June and for $12 million for the rest of the season, that's a great buy. I'm more than good with that. I just don't want to commit huge long-term money, knowing that eventually Christian Yelich is going to want a ton of it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the guy looking at the Brewers that you're going to have to take care of is Christian Yelich, because you're not going to want him going anywhere else.
No, and if I'm the Brewers, I know we already, inked him for a couple of more seasons. I offer him whatever I think that I could get him for right now. Before he, if he does this for another season, he's going to start looking at Bryce Harper type of money. But in Christian Yelich's heart of heart, I think he knows he can't be this hot forever. And he's special. He's a special ball player. But if you could get him on an affordable long-term deal, I'd love to see it.
Yeah, something like maybe Braun did. Braun kind of did the hometown discount when he signed his big contract when he was in his prime of being good and maybe also, juicing up. We don't know.
No, we know. He was juiced.
Yeah. But, what I'm saying is, he did a pretty friendly deal for the Brewers at that time. He still got his, but it was good for the Brewers to still bring other guys in. So maybe Yelich would do something like that if they were to do it now.
Definitely, and that's what I'm hoping for. And that's why I think both sides take a bit of a gamble on one another. And if Milwaukee could just ink him and we could just be under contract for the next 10 years, that's a guy I don't mind pushing a lot of chips into him. I'm a big believer in him. I think not only does he have the skill set, but he has the intangibles that go along with it. This team genuinely seems to love playing together. And I think that's a part about baseball that oftentimes goes overlooked. Now, again, you and I have been watching tens of thousands of hours of baseball in our lifetime, and we know the difference between talent and a team that likes to play together. Right now, the Brewers love to play together. You don't see that with the Cubs, but you rewind a couple of years ago, when the Cubs won the World Series, there was a genuine excitement to that team, and you could tell that they were coming. They had all kind of grown up together. Can they get it back, though? That is the big question. And from your Cubs perspective, I know you're hoping it, but what do you feel?
I feel like they can, but watching them, I'm not sure it's going to happen. It's still Rizzo, Bryant, Javi, Contreras, those guys that were the core of that, 2016 season. The guy missing is David Ross. I think he had a big impact on that team. They called him Grandpa Rossi as a joke, but they loved that guy. And he retired, and it almost seems like they haven't been the same since he retired.
And that's the intangible aspect of sports that I think a lot of people miss, and they forget that these people are human beings. Have you happened to catch the movie Bohemian Rhapsody yet?
I have not watched it yet. I want to. Haven't yet, though.
Okay, so they go through kind of details about why the band broke up. And I think when any time at a major level, whether it's music or in this case obviously with sports, when people their heads get bigger and they don't have that David Ross. Mark DeRosa was that guy for the Cubs way back in the day.
Yep.
And you don't have that locker room guy around that kind of keeps people playing for one another, not just playing for themselves on a daily basis. Can they get that back? Is anybody in that locker room going to step up? I don't know Chris Bryant. I don't know Anthony Rizzo. I don't know what these guys are made up of when we're not there behind closed doors. Jason Hayward was that guy back on the run a couple of years ago, but do people not listen to him anymore because he's just not that good? It's hard to say.
Jason Hayward was the guy that Game 7 that pulled everyone together. I'm sure you've heard the famous speech that everyone talks about that he gave during that 10, 15-minute rain delay.
It's why I mentioned him.
Yeah, he's the guy that maybe he's never going to be the hitter that we thought he was going to be, but if he can play his gold glove defense and be the leader in that locker room and pull everyone back together, maybe he's the guy that needs to do that. Maybe he just needs to step forward and be like, I know you guys have all grown up in this system together, and I came in, but I'm the veteran here. You guys need to listen to me.
Yeah, we're way too good not to be competing for a World Series every year. This is a really good lineup. For my money, Javi Baez is one of the best all-around players in baseball. He can hit, he can run the bases, hit for power. He plays elite defense in the middle of the infield. He does a little bit of everything. Chris Bryant, former MVP. Rizzo's not quite as good as those guys, but man, he's solid day in and day in, day in and day out, every single day. Contreras behind the plate. Schwarber even made a diving catch the other day, so he's not completely awful in left field every single
No,
play.
you know what? And I know we said that last week, and I was listening to the broadcasters last night, JD and Len, and they were actually talking about how people always say Schwarber's a terrible outfielder, but then they were going through his outfielding stats and everything, and they're actually the middle of the road, and they said that he really improved in spring training this year too. So maybe that diving catch is just him getting better. Who knows? We'll see.
I think when people develop a reputation in sports, it's very difficult for people they don't think that a Tiger can change his stripes. And I want to bring up James Harden from the NBA, who has a long time standing, reputation of being just the worst defensive player in the league. And he's not. Now, is he Giannis Antetokounmpo as far as defense is concerned? No. He's not an elite defender. He's not Paul George. He's not Giannis. He's not Michael Jordan back in the heyday or Scottie Pippen or anything like that. But people talk about him like he's a joke. He's actually an excellent post defender. But once somebody gets a reputation, it becomes really difficult for that to shake.
Yeah, it does. I mean, look at Jay Cutler, although you can't really shake those, right?
Jay Cutler is still the fourth best quarterback ever for Green Bay, man. He threw a lot of touchdowns to us. Just happened to be that he was on the other team and we had him back for end zone. I wish they would bring Jay Cutler back to Chicago right now.
Yeah, that would be a good pickup for Chicago or for Green Bay.
We would love that. We would love that, no doubt about it. So have you caught much of the Brewers games early on, or have you really been fixated on the Cubs?
I've fixated on the Cubs, but I've caught some stuff here and there. Saw some of the game against Cincinnati the other day when it was 1-0 and Freddie Peralta looked like Freddie Peralta.
Right. And they got a couple of young guns in Milwaukee, which is, again, I want to go back to the fact there's a reason that we didn't go out and spend big money on Dallas Keuchel. Freddie Peralta, Corbin Burns, Brandon Woodruff. We got Jimmy Nelson coming back. Zach Davies, even though it's been a while, I think people forget how good Zach Davies was down the stretch in 2017 and 2016. He was excellent. So I don't think they need to go out there and get these guys. This team is still pretty young, and you want to watch them develop. I don't want to sink all my money into a veteran pitcher. Now, if the right opportunity came up, don't get me wrong, I think the idea would be to jump on something like that. But Freddie Peralta looked real good the other day. So here's a question for you, and this is more of like a general question and not just something that I want to predicate on the Brewers based on 7 games. But the Brewers are 6-1, but they only have a +3 run differential because they lost by quite a bit and they've won a bunch of 1-run games. What do you think is more important when kind of projecting like long-term how a team will be, what their plus minus is, or the fact that they just find a way to win every single day?
I really think it comes down how the team finds a way to win. Because if you go back to the Cubs in 2016, they had a lot of games where they won big, but they somehow came back or found a way to get that run in the 9th or something to that effect. That you could see how it energized that team every day that they did that. And they always talked about how, we play for each other. We're always fighting till that last out. And I don't think those are intangibles that you can just come across. Like, I think they just naturally happen with a team. And like the Brewers, the way they're playing together right now, I don't think the differential matters. They play for each other. They're playing to win the game, and they're fighting until that last out.
Absolutely. And I do think that is something that the sports betting angle versus the winning a World Series angle are a little bit different. Because if people right now, they're going to look at the Dodgers, 5-2, a +21 run differential. Same goes for the Phillies, 4-1, +17. Oh, Milwaukee's going to regress. Milwaukee's going to regress. Milwaukee's going to regress. But when you get to the playoffs, and I get it, the Brewers, they didn't win Game 7 last year. They fell a game short of going to the World Series. When you get to the playoffs, you're used to being in tough games. You're used to navigating through these games where it's 4-3 in the 8th, as opposed to just winning games where it's 12-2 in the 8th. And the Phillies are going to be good, I think. And the Dodgers are good. They've been in the World Series 2 years in a row. No questions about it. But there is something to be said for knowing how to win close games every single day. And it's why I love the Bucks game last night, because that was playoff basketball right there. And they were down 6 with a couple minutes to go. They found a way to come back and win that game. I don't think that game could have gone any better. Faced some adversity early, missing some key guys. The Sixers were balling, hitting every three-pointer. But to come through and win that game, I cannot tell you guys how important I find that to be for the Bucks' chances in the playoffs.
Oh, I agree. And Greg Anthony, if you're listening to the commentary last night, he said that the Bucks this year are that team that can close and come back from a deficit like that and win. He goes, they're not fazed by it. They've been there this year. They've done it. They know how to do it. Where the Sixers, he said, I still haven't learned from even last year in the playoffs, and that could be the Sixers' downfall when it comes playoff time.
No, they haven't. They have not at all. Whereas I think that's a good thing for the Bucks. Now, clearly, the Warriors are still the odds, front runners by a good margin.
Sure.
But I'm pretty pumped up for the NBA playoffs this year because I do really like Milwaukee's shot, and we got a bunch of good teams in the East. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
I agree. So, so I know you brought up Zach Davies, and that's the pitching matchup on Sunday. Is Hendricks against Davies, if I'm correct?
So 2 flamethrowers, right?
Oh, totally. I mean, you and I might be able to go up there and hit some.
Yeah, you will not see a 95-mile-an-hour fastball on Sundays. You got a couple of contact pitchers in Zach Davies and Kyle Hendricks going at this one. Davies, not too bad in his first start. Hendricks, it wasn't his best start, but that doesn't mean that he won't pitch better come Sunday. I do think Zach Davies is an X factor for the Brewers this year, just by the fact that, again, he was really good down the stretch in 2018 or 2017 and 2016. And if you can get this guy to go out there and consistently give you 6-inning quality starts that will allow that bullpen to rest. Obviously, we're not going to have Corey Knebel this year. Jeffers won't be back for a little while. And while Claudio and a couple other guys have pitched okay so far, we don't have that X factor Josh Hader that can come in and throw 2 innings when you need him to anymore, as he's kind of stuck in the closer's role for right now. So we need Davies to pitch well. I think that'll be a big help to Milwaukee, be a bit of a veteran leader for guys like Corbin Burns, Freddie Peralta, and Brandon Woodruff. And for Kyle Hendricks, you just need him to get a little bit of that magic back he had from 2 years ago.
Yeah, definitely. And he just needs to locate a little bit better. He just had a couple pitches the other night, and that's what hurt him. He just didn't quite get it where, Contreras was calling for it on the corner, and he got too much of the plate, and he'll get that back. I really believe he will. I just think he needs to fine tune it, and hopefully he gets back to being the Greg Maddux of now.
Yeah, it is tougher for guys like this. And I give a lot of credit to guys like Zach Davies and Kyle Hendricks that can go in there with, 90-mile-an-hour fastballs. It's a lot easier. We can throw the ball like we're looking up there at Max Scherzer and Zach Wheeler. There's 2 guys who can consistently get it up into the upper 90s because you can miss across the plate. Zach Davies can't miss across the plate. Kyle Hendricks cannot miss down the middle of the plate because guys are going to hit it. So I give him a lot of credit. I like the moxie that it takes to go into a situation like this, but you got to be fine with your location. And oftentimes for location pitchers like this, they get better as the season progresses. It's why Zach Davies has been a traditional slow starter. I don't think Hendricks has had that same problem, but it doesn't change the fact he needs to locate in order to be effective.
Yeah, I mean, his fastball sometimes tops out at 89, so he definitely needs to locate.
Nope, that does not make things easy. I had a buddy back in college. I went to University of Minnesota, and my buddy Nick was a pitcher for the baseball team. And he remembered, out of high school, he thought he was king shit. And then MLB scouts were coming to talk to him and saying, I don't know, man. He thought he'd get signed somewhere. They're like, you throw 90. He's like, yeah. He's like, that's really fast. They're like, yeah, now it is, but it won't be in Major League Baseball. You're 5'10". You're probably never going to throw any faster than 90. So guys who can be effective as smaller guys with a fastball at 90 miles an hour, they deserve an extra round of applause, in my opinion.
I agree 100%.
So,
one thing I did want to bring up is just from memory, and I don't know if the stats back it up, but 2 of the hitters that for the Cubs that I need to see get going this weekend would be Rizzo and Schwarber, because they have had success in Milwaukee before. There's games where I've seen Rizzo hit 2 home runs and then follow up the next game with another home run. In my mind, I know those 2 stick out as guys that can get going in the Milwaukee series, and that's a ballpark that they could definitely hit in.
Yeah, Rizzo scares me. Don't get me wrong. Schwarber's got big boy power, and he can put it up there. Other than Giancarlo Stanton and Aaron Judge, there aren't a lot of guys who can hit the ball farther than Kyle Schwarber, so he's got big boy power. Starting off the year solid, batting 300, couple home runs already. Rizzo has, I believe, in best of my memory as well, has kind of been a Brewer killer many times. I believe he was the only lefty to take Josh Hader a yard last year.
Yeah, he was.
I can't remember if they ended up winning that game, but I know he at least tied it late with that home run.
He tied it late, and then the Brewers won in extra innings.
Okay, nice memory, Brad. Again,
those things kind of stick with you a little bit sometimes. It was only last year. It's not too many things have happened since then.
Yeah, good point. I remember the home run. I just couldn't remember the results of the game. So credit to him for that. If you're a lefty that took Josh Hader yard, that's really impressive because you're the only one to ever do it, at least at the major league level.
Yeah, it was impressive. When he hit it, I think I jumped off my couch. I was like, no way.
Yeah, he didn't squeak that one out either. It wasn't no doubt.
No. Yeah, it was definitely no doubt.
So, like you said, though, the Cubs' bats have not been a major issue, albeit, though, There's a difference, and I've mentioned this a few times over the last year. They used to call Frank Thomas 5 o'clock Frank because what they meant by that was he'll hit a home run, like his numbers are big, but he hits a lot of home runs like Javi Baez's home run last night. Meaningless, right? Ninth inning,
Totally
down by
meaningless.
10 runs.
Yeah.
Or he hits one in the first inning, which, is nice to get a 1-0 start, but when it comes down to it in clutch situations, are the numbers there? And this year so far for the Cubs, it's really early, but the home runs haven't come at the right times. Like they've been winning games. I believe they beat Texas, had a couple of big run totals.
Yeah, opening day they beat them 12-4. Then they lost, and then the closing game on Sunday they ended up losing as well. But that was they lost 11-10, and that was because of a walk-off wild pitch, which was awesome to see. But no, in that game, that one where they lost 11-10. I don't remember if Javi went yard that game, but there were some big hits in big situations. Like Rizzo had a couple, Bryant had one. So they did have some clutch hits and clutch times during that game, but it just didn't fan out for him. So.
Gotcha. Yeah. I'm seeing this. Strop was a wild pitch to lose the game.
Yep.
I am a big Baez guy, though, man. I wish he was a Brewer. He's my favorite Cub by a long margin, not just because he's my keeper in a fantasy baseball league. I like what he brings to the game. I like the swagger. I love the elite defense. I love the fact that you can play him at basically any position on the infield. He hits for pop. He steals bases. And again, I think that swagger goes a long way, and he's got it in a lot of it.
Yeah, definitely. And just him stealing bases and the way he can contort his body to get away from tags sometimes is just amazes me as well. So,
how old is he now? Probably 24, I'm thinking.
I think 24 or 25, Javi is, yeah.
I mean, talk about a guy where the sky's the limit. And we talked about this, I think, last time we got together, that he looked like a guy with a major hole in his swing that you didn't never know if he'd be able to move past it. And he really took a huge step forward last year, being able to lay off that slider occasionally so that he's not an easy guy to strike out every single time he goes up there. Gets him that extra pitch. And major league hitters will tell you that in any given at bat, you're usually given one good pitch to hit. You just got to take advantage of it. But when you're getting down 0-2 all the time, it just gets harder to get that pitch. Well, he's really developed, and he is, to me, an up-and-coming, just flat-out superstar in this game.
I agree. It's going to be exciting to see how he performs moving forward and what the Cubs do, too, contract-wise, when it starts coming up.
I will trade you Ryan Braun for Javi Baez straight up right now.
No, thanks.
I didn't think you would take that one. So, all right, guys. Well, we got ourselves a nice 3-game series this weekend. Odds are it's going to be a split 2-1 in favor of somebody, but I think if either of these teams could sweep, it would be big for them because the Cubs could get right back into this thing.
Yeah, I mean, a sweep for the Cubs. I mean, they're sitting 4-5, and the Brewers now go to 6-4. I mean, they're right back at it. If the Brewers sweep, it's good. I mean, that's 8-game lead. That is tough.
I know the season is early, but I don't care how early you are in the season. 8 games is a lot to overcome, even with 150 left to go.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. So let's see. Hopefully the Cubbies do something this weekend, and we'll see what happens. But I'm excited. They're always fun series to watch. I mean, they're such good games. Banter between Cubs and Brewers fans is fun as long as it's not too serious. Joking around is one thing. Being belligerent is another.
Yeah, and it's also probably the first time in – all right, well, we're both in our upper 30s. There haven't been a lot of years where the Cubs and Brewers have both been good. I mean, they've been few and far between.
Right, I agree. So that's what makes these games that much more fun to watch.
Yeah, it's been there hasn't been many of them, so let's enjoy it while we got it because it's a great time to be a Wisconsin sports fan. I think even though with all the scuttlebutt, and we'll probably try to do a video on this later, with all the talk of the Packers right now, and which seems to me a much ado about nothing, just try to get ratings and make stuff up. I get it. Aaron's probably a little bit of a prima donna, and I kind of think McCarthy's a buffoon, but take that away. We got one of the best players in baseball in Christian Yelich. We got an up-and-coming team. We got arguably the best player in basketball right now. This is a rare time in Wisconsin sports. It ain't been like this in my life before. There's never been a time where the Bucks have had the best player or even close.
No, not at all. So it is, as a Wisconsin sports fan, I mainly root for the Bucks and the Badgers on that end of things. But, it's only good for the state when the Brewers are doing well, when the Packers are doing well. And, it's like I said, it's just good for the state. It's good for the fans. It's good for morale all around. So
when the Bucks win their opening round playoff series like they're going to this year, you are going to see so many like people jump on the bandwagon. I've been telling people to jump on the Giannis and Bunks bandwagon for about 4 years now.
I think both of us have.
Yeah. Our old coworker Dan got me on Giannis when they drafted him, and I've been watching him closely ever since, and then telling guys this guy's going to be a difference maker. And he's just gotten better and better and better, and he continues to get better. But man, we are going to get bandwagon fans like you wouldn't believe, kind of like we did at the Brewers last year in the playoffs.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it'll be fun seeing the Golden State and Seattle Seahawks fans jumping on that bandwagon.
Most definitely. All right, guys, thanks a lot for watching. If you haven't done it yet, subscribe to the channel. Thumbs up is appreciated. Go Brewers.
Go Cubs.
No Cubs. All right, guys.
All right.
Have a good one.